Adult contemporary hip hop. I tell you, if you don't have the album, stop this right now or put it on pause and go and get the album right now. Download the album right now. Listen to it in its entirety. It's one of those that I was just telling Speech as we were talking before we started recording. I said there's very few albums that you'll just listen to in the entirety with no skips, no stopping, anything like that. On top of that, I had every question in the world, but my mind was going crazy as I was listening to this album. And so I had to take out my notes app and start asking the questions to myself so they were connected while I was listening to the album. It is amazing. It's a renaissance of hip hop. It's a masterclass in lyrical content, in the heart and the soul of what hip hop is. If you're just listening, I'm wearing a Run DMC t-shirt today because of my love for hip hop, but also it helped. It was for me today with this situation. It's a thank you to Speech, to Arrested Development for bringing back what hip hop was meant to be, what is supposed to be. And I tell you, it is my honor, my pleasure to bring back not only one of the a two-time Grammy Award winner, a man who has one of the top 500 songs of all time, the lead singer and founder of Arrested Development, but more than that, my friend. So why don't we get this party started?
Nothing more on my mind. I got to shine, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
Adult contemporary hip hop. Tell me where this came from, Speech, and how did you name it that, which I think is the greatest name for this particular project. Once you listen to it, it's absolutely incredible. What was the inspiration with it?
My man, Twan Mack, a great friend of mine since high school, um, unexpectedly passed away in November of last year. And we were all shocked. Anybody that knew Twan was absolutely shocked. He's a hip hop extraordinaire artist, producer, beatboxer, and just all around passionate guy about the art of hip hop. And when he passed, it took us by surprise. One of his biggest missions when he was alive was to create a genre called adult contemporary hip hop. His argument was that basically artists that are over 35, 40, 50, 60 are making hip hop music because that's what they do. And yet they're having to compete with artists that are 18, 19, 20, 25. And a lot of the subject matter, a lot of the style of the music, a lot of the sensibilities that are respected in that music are totally different with these age groups. And so he wanted to create a genre. And so when he passed, I felt it was necessary to, number one, dedicate the album to him, but dedicate it by carrying that torch. Okay, well, we're going to call this album Adult Contemporary Hip Hop. And that's how we came up with the name.
So I was listening to a interview with Andre 3000, and he said he did the flute album. He's like, because for this fact and exactly what you're talking about, he said, I'm not going to do hip hop anymore because what am I going to talk about? Going in and getting a colonic, you know what I'm saying? Like, and
Yeah, yeah.
but when he said that, I started laughing and I was like, yeah, that would be crazy because, in the 50s realm, when you're in the 50s realm, as far as age wise, what are you going to be talking about? Although with you in this album, and we're going to break this thing down. I want to break down, like literally, we want to break down every aspect of it. The first one that I want to talk about is the song Flowers. And
Yeah.
when you were in this very melodic song, but something hit me, and I don't know if it was just me, and I'm getting goosebumps while I say it, is the song when you started talking about Bentleys, the beat changed. and it changed to a more kind of boom bap beat.
Yep.
Was that on purpose and deliberate, or was I just hearing something?
No, 100% agree. It is on purpose. And that song is one of my favorites on this album. And it's because to me, it harkens back to the original Arrested Development style of sort of production. It's a very quirky beat, um, but using a soulful sample. I won't say who the sample is right now, but it's using a very soulful R&B sample that meant a ton to me growing up. This record, and I wanted to use it along with this Billy Squire hand clapping, like rowdy, Run DMC, here we go, type of beat that's underneath it. And long story short, that breakdown that you're referring to is, yeah, is me sort of, um, and I did the production on this particular song, is me sort of going back to that sort of just drums and rhymes, and talking about how far we've gone from that essence of what hip hop is. And I also wanted to say one thing about Andre 3000's famous interview, I think he did with Rick Rubin when he was talking about that. And, you know, to me, the whole point about keeping it real, being honest in hip hop, being authentic, requires us to talk about what we're going through, whether it's colonics or whether it's, um, you know, some of the things that I talk about on this record as an MC, where and One Love talks about, um, there is real things going on in our lives. It is important. Sure, maybe young people don't relate to it from a personal standpoint, but they surely will relate to it if they breathe long enough and if they live long enough. And it's fine. It's just part of this journey of life. And we got to keep it real. We got to be honest and be authentic. So that's what to me the whole point of this kind of record is.
So when you wrote that song Flowers and you're producing it,
Yeah.
did you have the idea, because it took like when the lyrics hit, when you said and you started talking about the Bentleys, which took me back to a part of hip hop that was like, you know, which I loved, with Run DMC, the chains, the hip hop culture, everything like that. And it literally like it went, and it was probably, I don't know, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, whatever it was.
Yep.
Did you plan that out before you set out, or was that a feeling that you had in the middle of the song as you're producing?
Feeling that I had in the middle of the
Mm.
song. One thing about that song is it's a one bar loop musically, and then it does break up, every 4 bars, it does something different for just a minute. And so I did feel like there was a need to sort of give something different. And to me, those particular bars that I was spitting, which was just me saying how much I never really was rocking with the Bentleys. And it said for centuries, Africa's resources have been siphoned out of Africa and it's been incensing me. And it's just talk about this sense of materialism that gives us our values instead of our essence and our humanity being what gives us the value. And I personally have been against that type of thing from my journey. Now, mind you, I have a family member that has a Bentley. So I'm not, I'm not dissing somebody that buys a Bentley. I am saying that, you know, for me, it hasn't been what has excited me about my life is these particular, cars and things that you own. It's more so, who are you? That's the value, that's the gold right there. Like, who are you? What are you developing into as a human being? And that's where the value is to me, the most value at least.
So the first song on the track, let me go, because I'm going through notes because I told you this. I sat and I'm telling you, I have never studied an album the way that I studied this one. Um,
Wow, man,
Ever.
that's so honorable. Thank you.
I've never gone through.
I'm
So
honored.
let's get it on. And as if you're watching me, I'm looking down. I've got notes on my phone because it meant so much to me as I walked through this. This was, I tell you, speech, like my teachers wish that their curriculum would have been adult contemporary hip hop because I actually would have
Right.
got an A in their class, right? Like, and I didn't. I graduated with
That's so cool, man.
C plus average. Okay, on the first track, let's get it on. Let's get on with it, right?
Yeah.
You came out with a flow that I've never heard you. Like I've heard your music. I love your cadence. I love everything. But on this album, you almost connected with people that loved a different cadence from a different rapper, but you kept it in your own style. This one, my friend called me, my buddy Will, I'm getting goosebumps as I say it. He is a big MF Doom fan, and I have never heard
Wow.
anybody have a cadence because his cadence is his own. It was almost like a nod to Doom, but in your own
Wow.
style. And when he called me, he was like, I don't know who was on that track, the first bars that came out. And I said, that was Speech. And he said, no.
Yeah.
And I said, it sound. And did you do that on purpose, changing the cadence? Because, and we're going to talk about this throughout, there are so many different cadences that you used that was, for me, it was a nod to so many legends in the game, but you made it your own.
Man, thank you so much for that. That's really, really encouraging. Yeah, first of all, shout out to Configure on the beat. Um, for me, his music landscape set up the tone for me rhyme-wise. Um, it was such a lush musical experience and journey, that track, because it rarely loops at all, and really most of that song is just all new chord progressions and arrangements throughout the entire song, strings, vocals just soaring through the skies to me on that song. And this album, dedicated to Twan Mac, who I just explained, I wanted to express in, for me, the best bars that I could, where this album is and what this album is about to be for the listener. And so my dude passed Twan back, my muse in rap, had the nomads, had the gonads to be a nomad, not rap boobs and ass. Reminded me of me back in 83 with Attack, which was my group back in 83 when I used to rhyme in Milwaukee. Um, Invincible principles, thank God I ain't been losing that. Steady infusing that in the age of rap anthems, lap dances, Jack Daniels, all been cruising past this 56-year-old literal minimal. I forget what I say. But my point is, it's like I'm just trying to express all of this life experience that's going on and give a nod to my friend Twad Mac, who, as I said in that rhyme, has been a muse for me in the last number of years when I wanted to retire from rap. And he would always encourage me, no, man, you have so much more to do. You have so much that you have to offer. And in fact, I used one of his voice messages that he left me to encourage me to stay in the game. They call it the game. I don't call it a game, but to stay in this thing. And he was my muse. And so yeah, that verse is me wanting to really drop bars. And I really felt like it's one of my best bar deliveries since we've had a career, to be honest. When it comes to bars and flow,
Yeah.
not necessarily what I'm saying, but how I'm saying it, as you were saying, as far as cadence, I felt like it was one of my better deliveries that I've ever done. So
It,
thank you. That's why I said thank you.
well, I think it was phenomenal because most people have a cadence. There's very few that have a cadence and then they deviate from that cadence. Like when you
Exactly.
hear them,
Yeah.
but in this, you wouldn't know. Like my buddy didn't know it was you. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and to hear it, and when you talk about the lyric, this is the best I've ever heard you lyrically. Like, and
Thank you. Thank you.
I've been such a huge fan, but this one was
Wow.
as if I watched you and I was listening to it, but your music was so strong, it was visual to me.
Yeah.
And as I'm walking through, it was almost like this is what I felt. there was the lyrical stuff, the musical stuff, and all the people. I thought of this is what I envisioned: is I saw a crowd and one person yelled out, "Yeah, but you know, I don't know that you could do it musically," and then another person yelled out, "I don't know if you could do it lyrically. I don't know if you could
Right.
do it just in the cadence." And it was almost
Right.
like you said you addressed every one of them and said, "Sit down, sit down, sit down. Let me go."
Right.
And you in this
Hold my
album, you
beer.
hit all of them. Like
Yeah.
it was unbelievable. Let's go to Forward Ever. Was this
Wow.
was this a true depiction of your life? Because this is what I felt. As I was listening to the song, I was like, the things that you were talking about, was this you taking them through, or was this metaphorical, or was it both?
No, it's both. The first verse does talk. I wanted to speak on behalf of people that are trying to accomplish a major milestone in their life. So, to keep pushing forward and be forward ever thinking. So, the first verse, when I talk about getting your college degree, or things of this nature. I sucked at school. I know you said you're a C plus average. I really was horrible at school, but I do know so many people that their academics was um, one of the things that they really wanted to strive and do extremely well. And I wanted to have a soundtrack song that was about that. But once I got that out the way, the rest of the record is definitely just my own experience. And I was talking about my demo tapes back in the 80s, and just wanting to innovate. And um, the mission of this group, which I wanted to do something different with this group from what many other groups were doing, on purpose, and just continuing to push forward despite the obstacles. And then by the second verse, it's totally about literally what happened before Arrested Development
Mm.
ever got a record deal, and living in New York City, and not living there permanently, but staying in New York City trying to get this record deal. And my sister Tia, who lives in New York City and is part of a big church there, set me up in a house to be able to stay. I had no money to get a hotel or anything back in those days. And so, just my experience living in that house, and what that was about. And it's just very personal. The rest of the record is totally personal.
I love the nod to De La too. You were talking about when you were
De
there
La
in,
Soul is dead.
right? That you were listening to that disc, which
Yeah.
was the one that a lot of critics said that De La Soul, when it came out with De La Soul was Dead, that that was something that didn't get. I mean, they came off of 3 Feet High and Rising, which got all this critical acclaim, and then you come with De La Soul is Dead. I love that you gave that nod and that inspired you, which was not something that inspired the whole world at that time.
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, De La is a huge inspiration to me. Uh, just the fact that they were able to come out so left field and be so innovative, um, whether it was their cadence, their style of rap, the music that they and Prince Paul created, Prince Paul and others created. Um, they were just so left field that it gave me permission as an artist to also come from my left field. Like, what do I think isn't presently happening in hip hop, and what do I feel I can bring to hip hop that's also unique and left field in its own way, but still be you know consumed by the listener. And so, yeah, De La, that record was the De La Soul is Dead record, even was very instrumental for me, again, to give me permission to do what we needed to do as a group. It wasn't that I listened to it and said, I want to sound like this or sound like that. It was more that they just gave me permission to sound like us. And that was important for me.
Well, sounding like yourself, it was a lot of times people, when they have the type of success that you have as a group or as even as MC, a lot of times that success almost cages the person. And what I want to
Yep.
compliment you on this is on this album, you took risks. They paid off like in droves. And I believe that
Thank you. Thank you.
for me, I was telling you, this is one of the first non-skip albums that I've I can't remember. I mean, you before we started recording, I referred to DOC um,
Yeah,
when he came out, and but there's very few that have this. Let's go to Pearls, right? There was a
yeah.
quotation that I had to. There was a quote and a lyric that I want you to help me with. As I was walking, I had to listen to it probably 4 or 5 times. Rewind. I told you
Wow.
that I got lost. So I went on a hike in Park City. We were there
Yeah.
during the summer. I turned on the album. I was so engulfed in the album that I went on a trail that I didn't know and I got lost, but it was great because then I got to listen
Wow.
to the whole album. And in Pearls, you said, "We know Diddy, but we don't know Dan Gote."
Yeah, exactly.
So
So yeah.
I had to
Oh, go ahead.
rewind it because I want to say sorry, but I had to rewind it and then I had to look up what you were talking
Dan
about. And I
Cote.
was like,
Yeah.
I was one of those people. Why was that lyric so important?
Yeah, so for me, there has been this fascination with billionaires in the last just in average people's lives. Like we're fascinated by billionaires, whether it be Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg or Diddy or Jay-Z or whoever. And especially in the black community, there's been this fascination with Diddy and Jay-Z in particular. But it's like we know Diddy, everybody's heard about their successes and obviously his drama right now. But we don't know Dan Gote. And these are people that are behind the scenes making way more money than Diddy and Jay-Z, huge billionaires, but from Africa. They're doing things that are extremely instrumental for the stability of the financial realities of Africa. And most people have never heard of them. And so that's part of this long-standing problem with our media that tends to um, highlight the criminal activities of a Diddy, right? Who, whatever's the truth about what's going on with him, we know that there's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
And we all know about it. We all know the sordid details of oils and sex parties and all this stuff. But we don't know who Dan Gote is, who's also a billionaire doing a lot of amazing things on the continent and throughout the world have no idea who he is. And that's this ongoing thing that it highlights some things and overshadows or downplays other things. And both are extremely important if you care about what billionaires are doing in the first place. So yeah, that's what that line's about to me.
So let's go to Pulsate. This is one of my top songs. I mean, when I say this, they're all top. Like for me, this whole album, like I just take the whole album. It's one of the first ones that I could put all the names on folded piece of paper, put them in a bowl, pull it out, and be like, "Oh yeah, that's a banger. Oh yeah, that's a banger. Oh yeah, that's a banger." Like that would happen with everyone. But when I got to Pulsate, I probably flipped back 3 times in a row because I was like, I mean, it just hit. And
Wow.
so there's 2 questions with it. Number one, beat and inspiration, but there was a lyric that you said in it, uh, which made me laugh. So when you look like I do, wearing dreads, and you're walking through Park City and you get lost and you walk into the neighborhood I was walking through, they thought that I was one of those guys who was looking for change and coffee. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Wow.
but, and then you add to it, speech, it's your fault because I've got headphones in that they can't see because they're covered by the dreads. And I'm laughing to myself because of this lyric. And I again rewound it a couple of times. You said butterfly doors with caterpillar budgets.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that lyric. I'm so glad you picked up on that. Yeah, that's just, yeah. So, first of all, Paul Say, shout out to Configure, fantastic beat. To
Yes.
me, totally goes back to the era of tribe, boom bap, like just really encapsulates that sound to me. Um, Got butterfly doors with caterpillar budgets. Yeah, 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 yeah. um, you know, again, I think it's a little stab at this whole materialistic culture that we've sort of accepted as part of the main hip hop ethos, and that's something that I've always sort of tried to Look, I don't care if people have a materialistic, fetish and they like shoes and things. I don't care. That's fine. What I do care about is that that's one of the only things that um, hip hop tends to put out there to show your value. So a lot of people have these butterfly door cars, they're showing them off. Maybe that's even their video shoot, or that's their, you know, um, their promo pictures or whatever. And for me, it's like it's the facade that these people are putting out there when in reality they have caterpillar budgets. It's like, so I'm glad you picked up on that bar. That's dope. You're the first person that's mentioned that bar to me, so that's dope.
the
Thank you.
um the the next one that I wanted to connect with was, again, you gave so many nods um, in areas. And what I love about it is you always keep it on the positive. So you could have, which a lot of people do, they'll clout chase, they'll clickbait. So they'll say something that is new and has a nuance that will be like, oh, and even when you said about the Diddy and Dangote, when you did
Yeah.
that, it wasn't like you were throwing shade at Diddy or that scenario
No,
or trying to chase that story, which so many people do. But there was so many nods in this album. One of the nods that I loved was the original Nice and Smooth sample. What
yeah,
brought that on? And for me, I was like, yes, he did. Yes, he did. Because
yeah,
those are though that group was probably somebody who, you know, all of us in hip hop knew, but probably didn't get the flowers, shout to your song,
totally agree.
that they ever got. And you gave it to them on this.
Yeah, totally agree. And by the way, those guys are some of the best performers. Like they're just so awesome. And Gangstar, DeWick, which is where that sample comes from. Um, I always liked those words. I praise the Lord and keep the faith. It's all right. It's like I love those words. They were always encouraging to me whenever I heard that song. That song has history for Arrested Development. I don't Most people haven't noticed it, but on the DeWick video, DJ Premier, or it's Guru, I forget now. I got to look back at it myself, is wearing our t shirt. He's wearing an Arrested Development 3 years, 5 months, 2 days in the life of t shirt while he's walking on the beach. Of course, that made us feel like just amazing. We're huge Gangstar fans. And so, yeah, it was like The Wick is automatically a great song for us. Um, Nice and Smooth is an incredible hip hop group that has brought so much joy to this industry. And we wanted to use it on our song original. And you know, yeah, so that's just some of the history of why that connects for me. As a man of faith and as a man that believes in God, I praise the Lord and keep the faith. I mean, to me, that's just the mantra of what you need during turbulent times and during all times, but especially during turbulence.
I want to congratulate you, thank you, and give you some praise on this because you have been outspoken about your relationship with the Lord. And a lot of times when you're in a situation like in I mean, you're one of the most prominent artists of our time. And sometimes, and I've had this happen before to me where I had a person tell me, don't talk about God, don't talk about your relationship with Jesus, because if you do, you're going to alienate an audience. And I want to tell you, there's two things here. One, that has given other people permission, and you may not realize it, but it gives other people permission to
Wow.
be okay with their faith. But number two, you also toe the line. Um, and when I say toe the line, you also have addressed things in hip hop that most people um, they create division when they talk about it. But when you talk about Black beauty, when you talk about Black culture, when you talk about
Yeah.
those things, you actually bring people together as opposed to creating a divide, which a lot of people do will in certain
Facts.
situations. How have you been able to do that? And when did the faith part start for you?
I became a Christian in 1996 on December 8th. Um, that was I had been introduced to Christianity, but never partook in it until December 8th, 96. My grandmother, you know, was very instrumental in helping me to have at least a faith in God in general, just a general faith in God. Um, when I was young, she gave me a Bible that I read all the time. I usually could only get past, go through like the first few chapters of Genesis, but the beginnings of how life came to be thoroughly, captivated my heart and my imagination and my thoughts about this world we're living in. And so that stuck with me though. And by December 8th, like I said, 1996, I had a real come to Jesus moment where I decided to follow him. And I really made the decision to change my life and did that. My wife was right there with me. We did it together. Um, and we've been on that journey ever since. So, yeah, as far as my public pronouncement of these things, to me, it's a part of my journey that has been extremely important to who I am and to the paths I've taken in life. And to not speak about it, I feel would be shameful. Not only would I be acting as if I'm ashamed of the faith that I have and the love that I have for Jesus Christ, but it also would be shameful to not let people know what has influenced me and what has been a huge part of my journey. It's been like so fundamental to who I am. So yeah, to me, it's just an obligation to be honest.
I got a quote from a friend. He sent me this. He knows that I'm a Christian. He's not, but it's been great because we're around each other. And he starts. I can see him coming around, right? And so he sent me this quote, and it's a picture of Gandhi, and it says, "I like your Christ. I do not like your Christians. Your
Yeah.
Christians are so unlike your Christ." And when I saw that, my
Yeah.
buddy Will, who I told you, shout out to Will, him and I talk about it, and we're like, he told me, he's like, man, I don't know if I should say this to you. And I said, you can say anything to me. You're my boy since fourth grade. He said, man, Christians turn more people away from God than anybody else. And we had
Yeah.
the discussion. But I want to compliment you on this, man. If a person didn't know you were a Christian, but watched the things, and I I dove in lyrically to this album, contemporary hip hop. As you went through, you showed respect, you showed humility, you showed integrity, you showed wisdom, you showed insight, you showed discretion, you showed
Wow.
discipline, you showed all of those things inside of it without ever saying it. And my buddy, when I reached back out to him and I said, I feel the exact same way on this. I feel that a lot of times Christians are that way, but I wanted, and he was like,
Agreed.
well, where's the example? And it didn't hit until right now. I want you to know, Speech, you're one of those examples. Like you're one of those examples that
Wow.
you don't really have to say it. Let's go to this because the next track
Thank you.
that
First
that
of all,
I
I just want to say thank you.
it's massive, man. It's so big, and I don't know. I mean, when I talked about like, um, when I talked about the other aspect of it of, you know, when I say it, the black power or things like that, like those kind of things, a lot of times become divisive, whether it be one side or the other, anything like that.
Sure.
You are the first person that I've ever seen lyrically, musically, and just as a person that you're like, no, I just want you to be aware of it. It's beautiful to
Exactly.
be in this place. It's beautiful to be in this place, but it's even more beautiful when you're in that place, and we come together. And I want you to
Exactly
know that
right.
you do that,
Yeah.
man.
Thank you. Thank you. That is the intent. That is the hope. So I appreciate that.
It's tell me about Gold Dysmorphia because this one hit me like I had to sit. I got back to the truck after getting lost in the woods with the album, and Gold Dysmorphia came on, and I got in the truck and I turned on the truck, but I couldn't move, and I just had to listen because this is a masterclass in what is going on right now. Um,
Yeah.
what inspired this track?
Honestly, I think so many people are struggling with goal dysmorphia, although I don't think it's a term that people use popularly. A lot of people say, that you have body dysmorphia, where you're looking at yourself differently than what you really are, and somehow or another it's skewed. And for me, I definitely have struggled with gold dysmorphia throughout my life. Anyone that I tell this to, they always scold me because they're like, "How dare you? Look at what you've accomplished, and look at this, and look at that." But it's my own personal journey. And so for me, there has definitely been gold dysmorphia where I feel like I haven't accomplished certain things that I was hoping to accomplish, and felt really down about it. Felt like, you know, yeah, just felt down about it. And so what the song is really trying to do is trying to readjust my view and see myself more clearly, to see what was I hoping to accomplish. And in my course, I talk about, well, I wanted an incredible wife, and then I was like, wow, I have that. And it's like, yeah, I wanted my incredible, like, a group of people that I can work with, and we really mesh and we do excellent things together. Oh wow, I actually have that. God, oh wow, I have this relationship with God. Oh, okay. Well, maybe I have actually accomplished the things that I really wanted to accomplish. And that's what the song is sort of wrestling through as the lyrics, progress and progress and progress. So the last verse, or some of the last lines I say, gold dysmorphia, um, I'm going through a metamorphosis and I'm adoring this. And so at the end, I'm sort of like taking pride in this trial, or taking joy or pure joy in this trial that I'm going through internally, to accept what I've accomplished, accept what hasn't happened yet, and accept what the future may bring. So it's a journey record for me. And I love that record. To me, there's two journey records. I sort of call them journey records, but Gold Dysmorphia um, is one of them, and the song "Stay Awake" is another that to me is a very much a journey record, where it's just taking you through this personal internal journeys that I'm going through in my own life. So yeah,
Well, let's go to Stay Awake. It's crazy because, like, that's the next one that was on my sheet right here in my notes.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
was this advice you got from your dad?
definitely. My father told me once, and I don't think he meant for it to be as impactful as it was for me, but he said, "Son, never be a poor man. Nobody cares about the poor." And what that did for me is it scared me, because the idea that you're in this sort of void where nobody cares about you just was scary as a young kid. I think I was 8 years old when he told me that. And from that point on, it set me on a unhealthy journey of being absolutely petrified of being poor. And I hint to this in the Don't Fight Your Demons album, where I said in a song called uh, what's the song about? We can play with fire. And so I talk about on that song, I say, my daddy said never be poor, so I wasn't. And on this song, again, it's that same concept, because I go to therapy here and there. And when I do, one of the things that I talk to my therapist about is this fear of being behind the eight ball financially, to where I can't recover and therefore I'm poor. It's like
Yeah.
I can't, I'm not that I'm making no money, but I'm just not making enough money to get my head above water. And there's this huge fear that I have. And this is all personal stuff I don't share with just everybody. As I told you, I share it with my therapist and when I'm getting counseling. But it's like it's a deep fear. And so this record is just talking about how much I don't allow God to lead my steps a lot of times, because I'm so busy just running and running and doing and trying to make sure I never get behind this eight ball. So it's another internal struggle that I go through as a human being, and it's just very real. So those two records are my journey records, and they're cousins. The way I see those two records, they're very much cousins on this album.
So when you went through it, like, um, is this perspective that wealth is the most important, or is it health that's the most important when you were talking about it in the album, or are
Yeah.
you looking at both of them together?
Yeah, that's a great point. What I look at And what I talk about in this record is
Mm,
that, okay, I'm not even looking for wealth per se, but just the stability, the financial stability to not be behind
gotcha.
and to where you can't cope financially. And, you know, when you're working on one, a lot of times you're sacrificing another, meaning your health. So when you're working on your wealth, in a sense, you're sacrificing your health sometimes. And I talk about it in the song Stay Awake, where, you know, 3 years ago, I had a health emergency where I'm just walking, living my life. I'm going to the restroom and I fall out on the floor and I can't get up. And my body had failed. And I didn't know what was wrong with me. And so I called out to my wife. She runs into the bathroom and I tell her I can't even lift my head off the linoleum floor of our bathroom. I can't even lift my head. That's how much my body functions had just stopped. And we ultimately went to the hospital. I was in the hospital for a week. It turned out that I was internally bleeding and I could have died. And all of this, I had no clue that this was happening internally until it just showed itself. And so I talk about it in the song Stay Awake, where I'm working so hard and I'm, doing various things in order to keep things afloat. And sometimes sacrificing my own health, not paying attention to my own health, and not going at the pace that God would have me to go, where I have more trust in Him that He's got me. He's not going to let me fall behind. He's not going to let me fall through the cracks. He's got me. And that's what this song is sort of talking about. And it's a very specific passage in the Bible that I talk about in Isaiah. And, you know, I go into it in detail in the song, but it's a passage that talks about in rest and peace is your strength. In trust in me is your strength. And it's a message from God to his child, and he's like, listen, trust in me, I have you. And that's something I've struggled with for you know decades in some way or another, in my life. And so it's something I'm still striving to submit to and figure out. So yeah, that's what that song is about. Stay
Mm.
awake.
Let's go to Stardom. Obviously, I got to respect your time here, but I got a couple more questions for you. Stardom, tell me about the Lenny Kravitz story and how that when I was listening to that one, it hit me so hard because I think a lot of people don't realize why Arrested Development has had the impact and the longevity that they have, and it's because of this, like what you're about to what you're about to talk about.
Yeah, so Kravitz and I are friends. We've known each other since the Grammys in 92 or 3, and I met there, became really good friends, started visiting each other, hanging out in Bahamas and New York and various places. And he came up on stage with us, rock a party with us, a show we were doing, and crowd was floored and just amazed. And anyway, right after the show, I asked him, I said, let's go down and just be with the people. Like, let's just connect with the fans. And he had never done that before because he was obviously a big star as well. And he was used to having a security force that would surround him so that he can get out, and interact in a very organized way with the fans. And I was like, no, let's just go out there and just be amongst them. And he did it. He trusted me. He did it. Nothing happened. The fans were amazed that we were out there, but it's a funny thing that happens when you don't have this big security detail around you. Most people don't want to hurt you. They just want to be around you. And when you have the security, it actually heightens the sort of the fanatics. And if you don't have security, they just want to just know that they were able to shake your hand or tell you, maybe a platitude about what your music means to them, something like that. But outside of that, they just really just wanted to say hi, and just wanted to say how much the music meant to them. And that's what happened. And it was just a story I wanted to share about with the whole Stardom song. And yeah, that was it.
Well, here's a couple lyrics for you. You have to watch what you're speaking into existence. That's what I captured from one of your lyrics. There's another lyric that you said, I'm a serial killer of materialistic behavior.
Yeah.
You said that on Stardom, and it was like, I mean, that was like sniper fire for me, like with
Yeah.
that particular lyric. But there was one too that hit me: 68 Nova, 375 horsepower HP.
Yeah. Yeah. On the Milltown Soldier.
Was this a real car? Like, and was this your car?
It's not. So I never had that car, but I was born in 1968. The car in that song is me. I'm the
Mm.
car, and I my spirit, my soul is taking me throughout the city that means the world to me. I'm born and raised in Milwaukee, and it's changed a lot, and unfortunately, downhill. A lot of the things that meant the world to me as a child are now dilapidated, torn down, totally run down, weeds growing in parks that I wrote the lyrics to People Every Day in, for instance. The very park, when I said, "Well, I'm resting at the park minding my own," that very story was in a particular park in Milwaukee that is now run down, weeds growing all over it. And I'm just like, wow, it's a travel back in time for me, and the things that I remember in a city that means so much for me that has changed a lot, unfortunately. Um, in a negative way. So yeah, that song is figurative about, the car that I'm driving. It's me,
Well,
1968.
I love that one. I want to go to this because I know your time is short, but also um, I want to I want to compliment you on this. Live Forever. I think that it was one of the most lyrical genius songs that you've ever done. Although
Wow.
all of them, but I'm going to read off some lyrics. I don't know what's happening. Rappers just be rapping for the sake of making bags. Then the labels nab the last from them, trapping all their analytics, mapping out their fan statistics, laughing about the land of misfits, close enough to take their money, far enough to keep their distance. I'm happy Drake is suing. It makes what's going on behind the curtains clear for viewing. God bless the artist movement.
Wow, man. Oh man, that verse right there to me explains the exploitation of our artistry. Here we are, we're giving these major labels all of the tools for them to continue to exploit us, but also exploit artists after us. And we're not, unfortunately, capturing enough of the information for ourselves. So, um, yeah, I am happy that Drake is suing because he's not suing Kendrick Lamar. He's suing UMG, which is a huge conglomerate that has hundreds of, I don't know, thousands of artists under it that are all in some way or another suffering from the control that they have over all of these artists. And they are taking all of this excitement that this music creates, the statistics, the analytics, and using it against the very artists that they're getting all of this stuff from. And yeah, I definitely am on the side of artists striving to become free from that and independent from that and have their own voice. I'm on the side of what Prince was doing years ago, trying to create ways for artists to have an independent route. And I feel that Drake is doing the same thing right now, and I applaud that. I think that that is an artist movement, and I agree with it.
I obviously don't deliver the lyrics the way that you do, but I want to deliver one last one, and then I'm going to send you on your way. Is I wish to see the days when we can all be free to be unique without the monolith pathologies, the pressure of so-called culture, which isn't black no more. It's been hijacked by corporate type hacks and stores. So I rhyme back to the Black Panthers and breakfast meals, a time lapse to when black had sex appeal.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's in the same
Yeah.
song. Like, how do you drop? what you did in that first lyric, and then you come back with this one. This is in the same, for those of you listening, this is in the exact same song, and that all that wisdom is in one song.
Well, thank you, man. This is really encouraging interview. Um, because it's reading my lyrics back to me, and I haven't even thought about these lyrics until just now when you're reading them back to me, and it's like, oh yeah, wow, I did say that. So the song is called Live Forever, and that to me is the point. At the end of the day, it's saying, look, we got to find a way to make this art live forever, but not just for the fans, but for the artist as well. We've got to find a way to make these things be um, profitable, like financially, but also emotionally and spiritually and legacy wise, be profitable for these artists. Live forever. And that song was inspired by Twan Mack, who had passed the November before this year, so almost a year ago, and he passed away, and only thing that he had left was this legacy of striving to create a new genre, which is adult contemporary hip hop. So yeah, those wisdoms that I'm dropping in those verses um, is just my way of saying these are ways that we can possibly live forever again. Like let's get this stuff to where we can live forever, man, as artists, and you know, um, not literally but figuratively live forever. Yeah.
Speech, Arrested Development, adult contemporary hip hop. Go get the album. It is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Speech, and I can't wait to see it. If I get the opportunity, hopefully I'll be able to see you in Joshua Tree. Check him out on tour.
Me
We'll have
too,
all the
man.
links. We'll have all the links there. But I love you, man. I look forward to seeing
Love you
you
too.
and the next interview with you. So have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
You got it. You're officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and
Thank you,
soul.
brother. Much love to you, man. I really
Nothing more on my mind. I got to shine, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't